Emmanuel Hostin, the husband of the View host Sunny Hostin, has been accused of widespread insurance fraud, and Sunny basically admitted to it on camera. Let's talk about it.
Like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all.
Nah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sunny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases. Wow.
Welcome back to AllStarBuzz. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's begin. Imagine waking up thinking it's just another day of lecturing America about ethics and morality on national TVs, only to find your husband at the center of a massive $450 million fraud scandal. That's exactly what happened to Sunny Hostin from The View. Her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, a respected orthopedic surgeon, has been named in one of the biggest insurance fraud cases in New York history. We're not talking about a few shady medical bills. This lawsuit includes nearly 200 defendants and alleges kickbacks, fake services, and a money trail long enough to make Bernie Madoff blush.
And I just want to hit myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. He's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the poors. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart, and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to hit myself in the...
And here's where it gets wild. Sunny herself basically spilled part of the scheme on live TV. She casually said her husband operates on people without insurance, then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid. That's not just unfiltered honesty, that sounds like a legal admission wrapped in TV fluff. It's like watching someone accidentally read a courtroom confession from a teleprompter. This isn't just a tabloid scandal, it's the kind of plot twist that makes even seasoned media pros sit up straight. Because when the queen of TV morality finds her own household dragged into a case this big,
It's about The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest scum.
it's more than ironic. It's a full-blown media earthquake. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now let's continue. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, Sunny didn't stop at the casual courtroom slip. This is the same woman who once tried to convince people that climate change caused a solar eclipse. Yes, really. She said that. On air. With a straight face. And yet, This is who's been lecturing the country every morning about what's right and wrong.
The witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's gonna say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named Ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo.
Now, the same woman who talks down to the audience about ethics and responsibility is caught up in what could be one of the biggest fraud scandals in television history. But here's the twist that made this story explode. Gutfeld and Kat Timpf, two of the sharpest tongues on Fox, got hold of it. And they didn't just cover it, they torched it. It wasn't commentary. It was a roast. They dragged Sunny and her moral high horse through every corner of hypocrisy they could find, and it was brutal. Think of it like a comedy roast where the jokes are sharper than the subpoenas flying through her front door. Greg opened the floodgates with non-stop sarcasm, while Kat delivered punchlines like a sniper. The two of them treated Sunny's scandal like a gourmet meal of elite downfall, served hot with extra salt, and the internet ate it up.
All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines.
Because let's be honest, if you spend years preaching from the mountaintop, people are going to watch when the mountain collapses underneath you. Sunny's husband being tied to a $450 million fraud case was already enough to shake headlines, but Greg and Kat didn't stop at the scandal. They took aim at The View itself. According to them, the show has become a museum of public failures, where moral superiority is displayed like fine art while the backstage burns down. Greg compared it to a political sideshow, saying, "The View isn't just out of touch, it's a carnival of contradictions." No bearded ladies or sword swallowers here, just smug panelists pretending to be America's moral compass. And Kat? She called it exactly what it is, a place where lies have piled up so high, the truth can't even get through the front door. Her words hit like a mic drop. How do you speak truth now when you've built your whole brand on lies? And here's where the real double standard shows. If this were a conservative caught in the same situation, The View would have lit their name on fire and danced around the ashes. But now, silence. Suddenly, it's all about privacy and light and love. Translation? Damage control. No panel discussion. No hard questions. No holding anyone accountable. Just a quiet brush of the scandal under the rug.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Meanwhile, Greg and Kat aren't letting it go. They're turning The View's silence into their loudest punchline, and America's watching. And just when The View thought the worst was over, Greg Gutfeld turned the sarcasm dial all the way up. He wasn't just mocking the situation, he was dissecting it, step by step. He suggested Sunny launch a new show segment called Allegedly Yours, where she dishes out hot takes on ethics while ducking subpoenas off camera.
No, I'm also not surprised that there's one part of the video from the show yesterday that you left out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can we roll that, please?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that? Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this, his show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
Somebody's flirting with little Kat over here.
Well, she's the Republican one at the table, but I just think as a libertarian, I'm always looking to find common ground with other people because nobody really shares my politics. So I find some common ground in The View where she thinks I'm funny and I agree.
There you go.
Kat jumped in without missing a beat, saying this is the first time The View has ever accidentally become entertaining. The two treated the entire scandal like it was a masterclass in irony. Every lecture Sunny ever gave about justice or integrity, now it plays like stand-up comedy. Greg said watching her pretend nothing's wrong is like seeing a cat knock over a vase and then blame the dog. And Kat? She looked like she was watching her favorite series finale, except the plot twist is a fraud case and the villain is holding a coffee mug that says, "Live, laugh, litigate."
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. So, but the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses. Regardless of skin color, people marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
They even mocked the show's fake tone of concern. One moment, the panel's yelling about morality. The next, they're quietly sipping coffee and skipping over the biggest scandal ever to hit one of their own. Kat called it a performance half brunch, gossip, half courtroom drama, all staged. The hypocrisy was laid out like a 4-course meal. And Greg? He didn't even need to raise his voice. He just smirked and let the facts speak louder than any scripted monologue on daytime TV. But it wasn't just Sunny who got dragged. The View's entire cast got roasted like it was Thanksgiving dinner on national TV.
You know who just stunk up The View. The Bidens joined The View this morning for the entire hour. The audience was caught off guard, but knew something was up when they saw a dozen Secret Service agents and 2 embalmers. There were a few awkward moments, though, when a confused Joe asked if he could bid on the showcase. But was he surprised Kamala lost?
Greg and Kat lit them up, one by one. Remember Joy Behar? The woman who claims she's never heard of Greg Gutfeld? Greg laughed that off, saying her denial was about as believable as her hair color. He even joked that Mondays must be her pasture feeding days, since she didn't show up when the scandal broke. Then came the ultimate burn. While The View is always quick to unleash fury on conservatives for the tiniest missteps, suddenly they had nothing to say about a co-host's husband being caught in a scandal worth almost $500 million. No moral outrage, no stern lectures. Just crickets and crystals literally. They said they were focusing on love and light. Greg cracked that love and light is basically Hollywood code for we called our lawyers and we're not touching this mess on air.
Amazing. Wow. That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull.
Meanwhile, Kat stood by, enjoying every second of the show's meltdown. With her signature smirk, she painted Sunny as a woman whose decades-long moral act collapsed faster than a cheap IKEA shelf. She mocked the show's desperate pivot away from the scandal, joking that producers were probably begging someone to bring up Meghan Markle just to change the subject. Because when the moral police get caught with stolen goods, everyone wants to look the other way. But Greg and Kat, they handed out binoculars. Greg wasn't done yet. He floated one of his most savage ideas, spinning game show wheel right in the middle of the view. Each section labeled with words like fraud, privilege, or selective outrage. Spin it to find out what today's hot topic won't be. The message was clear. They'll talk about everything, except their own mess.
Kat, how many co-hosts has The View had since it first started? I've lost count. I don't know any of these people.
No, that's because they don't stick around long enough. There have been 17 since 1997. That's a lot. That's because they're women.
Oh, really?
Their hormones, they're changing their minds. I don't want to work here. Yes, I do. That's why. Women are always changing jobs every day.
Wow,
I just quit.
Direct the mail to Catherine Timpf. Not me. I disavow everything she just said.
And behind the scenes, Greg imagined full-on chaos. Interns panicking, cue cards burning, teleprompters glitching from pure denial. Producers whispering into earpieces, "Quick, say something about Meghan Markle." All to avoid the $450 million elephant tap dancing through their glass house of televised morality. But the worst part? The complete lack of accountability. The same hosts who can smell a Republican scandal from 6 time zones away suddenly act like it's their first day on air. When it's one of their own, the rules change. No questions, no outrage, just vague positivity and a whole lot of silence. Greg and Kat saw right through it. They didn't just mock the moment, they exposed the entire system behind it. The hypocrisy, the selective outrage, the performance. While The View scrambled to keep the facade intact, Greg and Kat lit a match and held it right underneath, watching the self-righteous curtain catch fire. And the audience? They weren't looking away. They were watching closer than ever. Kat wasn't holding back either. She pointed out the most glaring thing of all: The View completely skipped over the scandal on air. No dramatic intro, no emotional speeches, not even a basic panel debate. Just silence, as if a $450 million fraud case tied to one of their own didn't even exist. She said if this had happened to someone like Meghan McCain, ABC would have tied her to a stake and aired it live in prime time. Greg jumped in, saying the irony is so thick it should have its own apartment in Manhattan. These are the same people who run week-long media frenzies over a conservative using the wrong tone. But now? They act like a co-host's husband. Facing federal charges is just a Monday inconvenience. Kat added the cherry on top. Sunny didn't even attempt a heartfelt monologue or a teary explanation. No talk about justice or truth. No, we believe in the system. Nothing. The silence was louder than anything she could have said. And that's what made it worse. It wasn't just a PR strategy. It was proof that the rules don't apply when the scandal's in-house. Greg called it a masterclass in accidental self-parody. They've spent years calling out the right for being corrupt, greedy, and heartless. Now their own fairy tale has turned into a courtroom drama, and suddenly they've all lost their voices. Then came the most biting jab of all. Greg claimed Sunny doesn't even come up with her own opinions. He joked that her entire moral stance might actually be borrowed from her husband, the same man now tangled in a massive fraud case. According to him, without those talking points, she's got nothing upstairs. And then, with a smirk, he took it even further, saying if Sunny ever admitted her husband was behind it all, she'd have to call him a racist. Why? Because she once blamed a white woman habit for something he apparently told her to do. It was a twisted loop of race, ego, and deflection that only made the whole situation look worse. Kat jumped on that too, mocking the idea that this is just normal spouse behavior. People share political views, sure, but when one of those views involves hiding from a subpoena, it becomes something else entirely. This wasn't just another TV feud, it became a slow unraveling of everything Sunny's public image was built on. Legal expertise, moral clarity, feminist strength now being questioned by the very behavior happening under her own roof. And what made it sting even more? Sunny's total silence. Not a word of denial, not a peep about standing for justice, no passionate defense of her family, just avoidance. Greg and Kat weren't just mocking that, they were dragging it into the spotlight and refusing to let it slink away. And then they brought the receipts straight to the money. Greg reminded everyone this wasn't a speeding ticket or some forgotten tax form. This was a case involving nearly $500 million. That kind of money doesn't disappear without a trail. It screams corruption on a Wall Street level, and yet The View treated it like someone spilled coffee on the script. Kat made sure the audience knew just how ridiculous this looked. She pointed out that if a conservative so much as coughed during a debate, The View would dedicate an entire week to unpacking the moral consequences. But when it's one of their own, they shuffle it off like a wardrobe malfunction. She even joked that if this happened on the right, it would be open season complete, with dramatic music stings and fake solemn expressions. Greg leaned into that idea, comparing the situation to irony, taking a vacation in Manhattan with front row seats to The View. It was a meltdown so obvious you didn't need to be political to see it. The silence wasn't just suspicious, it was calculated. There was no panel discussion, no debate, no follow-up. Just on to the next topic. Like the previous segment wasn't setting fire to their credibility in real time. Meanwhile, Greg and Kat kept piling on, refusing to let the public forget that this is how selective outrage works. When it's convenient, you scream. When it's personal, you whisper if you say anything at all. And just when it felt like the takedown couldn't get any sharper, Greg and Kat went all in. They mocked the entire culture of The View, the performative outrage, the fake sisterhood, the smug tone. Greg joked that Sunny should forget law and TV and start writing books, a literary guide to double standards, served with a foreword by her husband's legal team. Because the hypocrisy? It didn't just show up, it marinated. Kat took it further. She compared Sunny's years of delivering ethical monologues to cosplay pretending to be a moral expert while living in a real-life subplot from The Wolf of Wall Street. And when real accountability finally showed up, the response wasn't justice, it was a group hug and convenient amnesia. They pointed out how The View has spent years turning tiny conservative mistakes into national drama, complete with long-winded speeches and emotional stares into the camera. But this time, nothing. No emotion, no explanation, just a quiet shuffle to the next segment. Kat called it Financial Crimes and Finger Wagging, a guide to having it both ways. Greg even joked that instead of a legal defense fund, Sunny should start a nationwide popcorn campaign because at this point, the public deserves snacks to go with the show. This wasn't just another scandal. It was a full-blown sitcom with a court date, and the hosts? They're the punchline. And as if that wasn't enough, Greg and Kat saved one of their sharpest moments for last. Greg painted a scenario. What if he or Kat were even remotely connected to a scandal this massive? He said they'd be canceled faster than Joy Behar cutting off a guest mid-sentence. No second chances, no calls for privacy, just total media destruction. Then they pointed out something everyone's thinking, but no one on The View dares to say this show isn't new to scandals. It's practically built on them. But this one takes the cake, bakes it with irony, and serves it with a side of smugness so thick you'd think it was scripted. Greg and Kat didn't just eat it up, they turned it into a 6-course roast. And it wasn't loud yelling or forced drama that made their takedown powerful, it was the precision. They weren't ranting, they were revealing. They didn't need to exaggerate. Sunny's real-life contradictions were already doing all the heavy lifting. Kat even called The View's legacy what it truly is, a rotating door of panelists who come and go like seasonal employees. 17 hosts since 1997, and yet, somehow, the moral compass always seems to be broken. As Greg said, when accountability shows up at The View, they just take a hard left onto deflection lane and pretend the GPS is broken. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.